Hello, this is Jeremy Murphy, and I am in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm happy to be with you today. And today we're going to talk about Gesundheit, which in German is translated as good health. That's the closest translation I can make based on my couple years of college German. And I want to dedicate this broadcast, this blab, to my German grandmother, who's no longer with us, but she always spoke to me in German, especially when I was taking college German, and telling me to speak German a little faster, a little more proficiently. And I think of her whenever I see anything in the German language. So Grandma Murphy, Sophie Murphy, this blab is for you. This is dedicated to you. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about good health, healthy habits, about simple changes we can make in our lives. And, sometimes we have to make incremental changes. Sometimes we can't do it all at once, but we do have to take steps. And, those steps can take us to our goals, and they can take us beyond our goals. And I'll give you some examples of that in my own life. But let me tell you who I am, just so you know briefly. I'm an asthmatic ultramarathoner in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm a running coach. I'm a health coach candidate. I'm very close to finishing my health coach class with the Dr. Sears Wellness Institute. I'm taking a final exam for that this weekend, and assuming that hopefully I will be certified very soon as a health coach with the Institute. And I'm excited about the curriculum and opportunities that will present. There's some very exciting things that Dr. Sears has done with research and just with highlighting best practices. Dr. Bill Sears has written over 40 books, and including our textbook for the class, which is Primetime Health. Just finished it. Fantastic book. He wrote another book recently called The Inflammation Solution. And I'm sorry I don't have that book close to me, or I'd show it to you. It's on the other side of the room, and I don't want to stop the broadcast to show it to you. But my point is, we have steps that we can take to holistically improve our health. We think that we have to go to the doctor, but we don't have to have the doctor manage our health entirely. We can handle a lot of our health issues by making smart decisions. And by, we have these little decision points in our lives. We have to make a good decision or a bad decision. And sometimes, we make the correct decision, and sometimes we don't. We have to learn our lesson the hard way. And I've done both in my life. And so I'll give you some examples of that. Let's see. The first thing I wanted to say about this, with a couple of years ago, I learned that I had a health issue with cholesterol. I unexpectedly found that I had high cholesterol, and it surprised me. And so I had to make some changes. And, my doctor contacted me to give me the news and said, well, you're going to have to make changes. And so I asked, well, what changes do I need to make? I don't know what to do. What am I supposed to do? I didn't know, if they talk about prescribing statins for cholesterol. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to handle it a different way. And so the doctor was generic, and she just said, you've got to figure that out. And unfortunately, with the age of, maybe that's a good thing that she made me figure it out, because that sent me down a pathway of doing a lot of homework, learning what smart things to do were to cut my cholesterol. So I cut back on meat consumption. I stopped eating meat on Mondays. I did a meatless Monday. I was already meatless on Friday. So I have 2 days a week that I don't eat meat unless it's a holiday or something like that. I'll bend that rule a little bit. But otherwise, I'm down to 5 days of meat consumption a week. I eat more fish, I eat salmon, tuna. The American diet, we're short on omega-3s. We get a lot of omega-6 fatty acids, but we're not getting the omega-3s that we need, and the body can't produce those. So we have to think about supplementing our diet with omega-3s for one. And that does, otherwise the body tends to wear out and show signs of wear and tear. And I discovered part of the problem that I was having with wear and tear last year, I discovered I was having asthma problems. My lungs were inflamed. And I thought I was just pushing myself too hard. I was training for my first 50K, a 50-kilometer ultramarathon. And I figured, well, maybe I'm pushing too hard. But it seemed like my breathing was labored, and I couldn't figure out why. And so the asthma doctor said, well, your lungs are inflamed. We're going to put you on a little higher, a different added new medicine, maybe up the dosage of it a little bit, see if it takes effect. And so that helped, but I found that after a while, that I discovered that I didn't need that anymore. And that what I really needed to do was to focus on eating more fruits and vegetables every day. We have a fundamental question of how many servings of fruits and vegetables are we eating every day? And I think a lot of us might struggle to say, well, I might be eating 3 or 5 or something like that. But the standard recommendation is 9 to 13 servings a day. And that takes some planning. And it takes doing things like having a fruit smoothie and adding several of those fruits and vegetables to make sure that we're getting enough servings of those, to make sure we're getting our greens, our healthy greens, the kale, the spinach. Let me go through a couple of categories I wanted to mention. There's a debate over superfoods and what that means, and maybe that's overused a little bit. But there are several superfoods that Dr. Sears talks about in this book, in the Primetime Health book that I told you about. And these include the following. Seafood is number one, especially salmon, and it's the pink wild-caught Pacific salmon that Dr. Sears recommends, not the Atlantic salmon, which costs more and is just not producing as high results. Berries, especially blueberries, are extremely beneficial for the brain in particular. Spinach, not surprising. We hear that Popeye loves his spinach, but we need to love our spinach too. And we need to make sure that our children are taught to love their spinach. And if they won't, then we find ways to sneak it into their food and smoothies and such. Nuts, almonds, pistachios, walnuts, peanuts. I have a peanut allergy, so I need to avoid those. But I eat a lot of almonds, especially now. And with nuts, you have nut butter, nut milk, almond milk, almond butter have become really staples for me since I can't consume peanut butter. So some other things are olive oil. A lot of us cook with olive oil. When I make spaghetti or pasta, I put olive oil in there. And I make sure that it's the premium stuff, not the cheap olive oil. Generally doesn't have as good results. I think you have to use it's the extra virgin olive oil is the premium stuff in the store. Broccoli, cruciferous vegetables, broccoli and cauliflower actually frequently sold together. Have amazing anti-cancer properties. Broccoli in particular, I think there's a little bit stronger research supporting that for broccoli. Oatmeal. Oatmeal is a big deal for people like me who have cholesterol issues. If the wrong cholesterol is out of control, you have to find ways to bring it back under control. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to eat oatmeal every day. And I finally decided, I can eat oatmeal occasionally, but I needed to do something a little more regimented to make sure that I was making that change, that I was making that one simple change that could create a bunch of other rippling changes to improve my health. So I started eating oatmeal for breakfast or for lunch or for a snack. If I need a snack and I'm starving and I have oatmeal in the house, I make oatmeal. And the oatmeal I prefer is the McCann's Irish oatmeal, which has one ingredient, Irish oatmeal. We need to scrutinize these food labels and things we're eating. There are all these oatmeals that are, the first ingredient is sugar, and we need to be more intelligent than that and read labels and really figure out what we're feeding ourselves and our children and assessing their impact, so we're not just consuming sugar with a little oatmeal on top. So if I've forgotten to eat my oatmeal for the day, sometimes I just add the oatmeal to the smoothie, and it blends perfectly. And especially if it's the McCann's Irish oatmeal, it just blends, and I just barely even notice it in there. Occasionally I might notice one little piece in the smoothie. Flaxseed is very helpful with fiber and improving digestion. Frequently, I just put this in my smoothie. I know some of the oatmeal types that I have come with the flaxseed already added. I love chia too, and I prefer chia in my oatmeal over flaxseed. But I have one kind of oatmeal I buy from Trader Joe's that has blueberries in it. Already has the flaxseed added, and then if I add chia on top of that, then you're adding an ancient grain that has wonderful properties. So. So yeah, thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining me, Garan. Glad to hear that you're going to try to watch the replay. Let's see, the next food I want to talk about is avocados. Avocados are in that healthy fat category that, we've had this understanding that fats are unhealthy and we shouldn't touch them. And what that does to us is it creates a situation where the untouchable fat becomes the attraction that we can't resist. And once we start consuming the unhealthy fats, then we forget, I can have avocados. And so what my wife and I do, we split an avocado. When we buy avocados, we just split one. I'll say, honey, would you like the other half of the avocado? I've split it. It's waiting for you. Or my wife will do the same thing for me. She'll split it and leave the other half in a bowl for me or something. So, that way we're both reinforcing the avocado habit. Pomegranate juice. Pomegranate juice can be bought in a couple different types. It can also be bought frozen. When I buy frozen fruit for my smoothies, I frequently buy the blend that has the blueberries and the pomegranates in it. So getting two of the superfoods that Dr. Sears talks about. Tomatoes have that ingredient of lycopene, which is good for our health. Tofu, contains soy, so I can't eat that. But for those of you that can, it's a superfood in Dr. Sears' classification. Yogurt, especially Greek yogurt. Now, I'm lactose intolerant, but I do bend the rule on Greek yogurt because I find that I'm frequently short on protein, especially on my meatless days, and that without adding it to my smoothies occasionally, I'm just going to be deficient in protein, and that can cause, health effects later. So let's see. The other three categories here, red onions, garlic, and beans and lentils. And I'm allergic to legumes. So that knocks out the beans for me unless I decide to bend the rule. And I have discovered I can eat peas without having problems. I think they're so small that, and pea protein doesn't bother me either, but the beans sometimes do. It just, I don't know, must be a different way of hitting the stomach or whatever. It's a little bit, gives you that heavier feeling. So, let's see, a couple other healthy habits you can do. I drink a lot of coffee, and I'll hold up my coffee cup here. I did stop drinking pop. I discovered that the harmful acidic ingredients in pop were destroying my teeth. They were ripping up my stomach. They were causing digestive issues. So I found that not drinking pop anymore helped me a lot. And I switched to coffee to some extent, but I do mitigate that by drinking green tea. And green tea is good for you. If you have to pick a kind of tea to drink that's healthy, this is the number one tea that I pick. Not necessarily this brand, but the point is green tea. One of my grandmas, my grandma Harvey, who's no longer with us, she used to recommend green tea a lot. And so when I drink green tea, I think of her. Another thing that a lot of us are deficient in, especially with runners, we find that we're deficient in magnesium. And magnesium is a multitasking mineral that helps us maintain ideal health. It does help with cholesterol issues for any of you that might have cholesterol issues like I've had. So think about magnesium, look at your intake, make sure that you're at least getting some in your body somehow. There are different ways to do that, and I'll give you a couple of examples. One of them I'm testing right now for a company called Enduro Packs. You see that? And this is a nifty little spray bottle. I'll hold this up. Just looks like one of these, you have those cough medicine sprays. It looks like one of those bottles, pretty small. There's the size. And I just spray 10 sprays of this in any of my sports drinks. So I'll take then the Enduro Packs, spray it into my polar water bottle after I run. And it does have magnesium in here as one of the ingredients. In fact, I think it's the second ingredient, it looks like. Yes, so ideally, let's see, the dosage on this is 10 pumps each. And I had some difficulty with the spray mechanism. Hasn't always worked, so sometimes I just open the lid and pour a little in. I've tried to clean this stopper, and I'm gonna have to get a hold of this company. They want me to endorse the product, and I need to tell them I get closer to an endorsement if you could give me a bottle that works. And if you have to patent something that's gonna be effective at work, you're gonna be a little closer to an endorsement. So I don't endorse this yet, but I am testing it. They're just giving me this as a free test. So that's one way to get magnesium in your body. There are other ways. There are things like vitamin D we need to pay attention to in the winter months. We have a lot less sunlight in the northern hemisphere in the winter months. And so, there's talk that you need to be outside for, can't remember the exact quantity, maybe at least 15, 45 minutes a day. But sometimes the sunlight is not adequate and you might only see it for 1 to 5 minutes like we did here yesterday. So in that kind of situation, you have to think about how am I going to get vitamin D? We do need to think about what spices we put in our food too. We can eat or drink our drinks bland, or we can make them more exciting by adding things like turmeric. You see that? It's organic turmeric. When I make my smoothies now, and my recipe is kind of evolving for what I call my Irish blue kale smoothie recipe, which contains oatmeal from Ireland, of course. The last 3 ingredients I put on this now are ginger, cinnamon, and turmeric. And I did not know anything about turmeric until I started taking this health coach class. And when I read this book by Dr. Sears, Primetime Health book, and saw the material on turmeric, my jaw just dropped. I could not believe what I was reading. But there's research that it helps with cholesterol. It's a good gut food, so it teaches your gut to behave, improves digestion, lessens stomach acid problems. I've had trouble with that in the past. Helps relieve some inflammation for people that have rheumatoid arthritis, becoming more common in people as we age. And then, Alzheimer's research supports it as a something to help with maintaining the healthy brain and preventing Alzheimer's disease. And it's also an anti-cancer spice, one of the top anti-cancer spices. And we can increase our absorption of turmeric by adding black pepper. And this is interesting because, anything that causes something to be absorbed at a higher level, if it's already good for us, why wouldn't we push it over the top and really make sure that it's getting absorbed? So there's research suggesting that adding a little bit of black pepper can boost the absorption of this by, I think what I saw was like 1,000% or something like that. And I'm a little bit skeptical of the quantity, but yeah, if black pepper is combined with it, it boosts the absorption by over 1,000 times, according to Dr. Sears. So think about turmeric. I'm going to pause this for just a second. Okay, we're back. I wanted to show you this brochure on magnesium that I got with a free product called Natural Calm. It's a drink that has magnesium in it, and a lot of athletes drink this. A lot of runners find that we're deficient in magnesium. And so one way to get that back is to drink it in this form. I showed you the EnduroPacks option, the spray bottle. And there's a little brochure I got with this on magnesium, the missing link in better health. It talks about it being a multitasking mineral. And I got this free with the Natural Calm that somebody sent me from the Natural Vitality company. This brochure's written by Carolyn Dean, MD. She's written a book called The Magnesium Miracle. So if you've never looked that up about magnesium, you might want to check on it. It's a big deal with runners and athletes. We find that we have that deficiency. We have to figure out how to bring that back under control. Do want to say hi to Don. Thanks for joining us. Just talking about good health, healthy nutrition, healthy habits. Improving sleep has been another issue. I found that I was trying to cut corners as an athlete and making sleep kind of a last priority and thinking that that was going to help me. And I found that I really couldn't do that. And with the help of my Vivo Fit 2, measures my sleep, tells me every night how much I sleep, how fitfully I slept, how well I slept, how deeply I slept, and it'll give me little subcategories of how long I slept, how well I slept, and it creates kind of a rolling average. Another thing the VivoFit activity tracker does for me is it measures my steps. So if I'm trying to achieve 10 to 12,000 steps a day or more, it'll monitor that. I run a lot. I run daily, so I usually don't have trouble going over 10,000. But if I'm having if I'm not feeling well or not running a lot, I've got to walk a little more with the dog or without the dog to try to get up to the 10,000 steps. So that's been helpful. The VivoFit tracker also tracks if you want to run or do some exercise, it'll do it for you. Measure the distance. The distance measure is a little bit suspect. I tend to rely more on my Garmin GPS watch for that. It tends to be a little more reliable. But I don't know, for people that are runners, usually most of us are using either a Garmin watch or some kind of Nike device at this point. There are people that are using independent trackers like on Strava is one of my favorites that links with Garmin. And that'll show you maps of paths that you've run or walked, and also where your friends are running and walking that are near you or around the world, wherever they're running, what races they've run, what training runs they're running. And some of my best friends, they walk a lot. So, some of them are showing their walking maps on Strava. And I think it's important that we, for those of us that are easing back into some activity, or for those of us who are aging, it's good to try to maybe start with walking. You start to walk a mile a day, or you walk. You run with walking breaks, or find ways to integrate strength training into it, and also flexibility. So you're not just doing endurance. We endurance athletes get into this endurance path, and we feel that we've got to check off miles every day, and then we forget to do the strength and flexibility work, and our bodies start to break down a little bit, and we wonder why. And frequently it's because we haven't taken those extra steps to be well-rounded enough to make sure that the body can handle any demand that we put upon it. And this helps us if we struggle with injuries or illness. It helps us recover faster. Some of you that have been watching my blabs before, that, a couple weeks ago I fell on my ribs pretty hard on the ice. The dog pulled me, and, I was able to bounce back from that pretty quickly. I had to tape the ribs up, had to switch hands that I walked the dog with, things like that. I had to make some minor modifications. But by taping that up with kinesiology tape, KT tape, I was able to bounce back from that pretty quickly. And, without having to use a lot of anti-inflammatory drugs. I think those have been overused. We think that we have to rely on an anti-inflammatory drug every time we get inflammation, and that's not true. We don't have to. We can handle that differently. We can handle that with better nutrition. Now, there are times where maybe that's appropriate, but you need to look at what are the collateral consequences of taking inflammatory drugs. To give you an example, when I was training for a marathon several years ago, I was having a major heel swelling. And this is back in the days when I was a heel striker, when I was a runner. And I couldn't figure out why or what was going on. And so went to the doctor. Doctor looked at it, saw the degree of swelling. And so the doctor put me on Celebrex, which is a COX-2 inhibitor, which means that it deals with inflammation in the body, but it deals with it in such a way that it causes stomach discomfort, irritable bowel syndrome, problems like that. And I discovered that wasn't a solution. That ripped my stomach up. You took a little bit of the swelling from my foot away, and you made my stomach angry. And so I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. So I fixed that a couple different ways. I just decided to start running differently, landing midfoot to forefoot instead of on the heel, and generally improving my nutrition, noticing what I'm eating, analyzing it, looking at the food labels and analyzing it carefully, avoiding high fructose corn syrup, hydrogenated oils, things that are unnatural, and trying to make sure I'm getting enough servings of fruit and vegetables every day. So one way that I do that, and I found this, I found this in my path to deal with oxidative stress. I was training for my first ultramarathon, couldn't figure out how to deal with the inflammation of my lungs differently, and I needed to. And so I discovered a product called Juice Plus. And I started taking these capsules, and I'll hold them up. There are different, where's the box? This is just one of those weekly pill sorters. Just put my 6 capsules in there every day, and there's a berry blend, a green, a vineyard blend, a berry blend, and a greens version. So those 6 capsules a day, I make sure I'm getting, more than 30. I'm getting 30 fruits and vegetables every day, including minerals and a couple of grains. So there are a couple of grains in the 30. And a lot of those fall into and intersect with the superfoods from Dr. Sears that I mentioned earlier. So, I discovered that relying on the Juice Plus capsules helped me a lot. It improved my health. It improved my asthma. And I discovered that with the amount of running that I needed to do, that I needed to double up, that I needed to take 2 doses of the capsules every day. And when I started doing that, my health dramatically improved. My weight loss continued. My run streak lengthened. I've been running more than 750 days consecutively now. And that wouldn't have been possible without improving my nutrition, making sleep a priority, boosting hydration, making sure that a lot of it is water, looking at things like magnesium deficiency, and realizing that if I'm not dealing with that on a systematic basis, that deficiency can cause further problems with cholesterol, fatigue, oxidative stress, inflammation, and I'm trying to avoid inflammation holistically now, to do it in such a way that I'm not having to rely upon anti-inflammatory drugs. I don't want to have to go see my doctor more than once a year. And I love doctors. My brother's a doctor. But the only doctor I really see every year, besides my dentist, of course, is my asthma doctor. And, the last time I saw her was right before my ultramarathon. And I didn't tell her I was going to run an ultra. I probably should have told her that. But I'll tell her that when I see her again. And she wanted to see me again in January because I was struggling with asthma at that point. And I discovered, my condition improved after that. So I couldn't get in January. I tried to schedule an appointment with her this year, and they said, oh, well, she's not available until January of 2016. And I said, oh, really? Well, I guess I won't see her this year then. So what I'm trying to say is we can take the bull by the horns and manage our health holistically in such a way that we're not having to see the doctor all the time. If we're making smart decisions, if we monitor our food intake, you can use things like MyFitnessPal. I used to log all my food there, and I kind of stopped doing that. It just got, I don't know, it's tough to do on a daily basis, and it's tough to do in situations like Thanksgiving dinner. If you're trying to log your food item by item at the table and your spouse is watching, you're going to get flack. So I decided, certain days like that, I'm going to bend the rules a little bit as far as what I eat. But I would mention dark chocolate is another simple change that anyone can add to your diet. You do want to watch for the saturated fat in it. You don't want to have too much every day, but a lot of people have maybe 1 or 2 squares of it every day. It's probably better if it's more than 80% dark. I like the 85 to 86% dark. My wife likes it a little less than that, maybe 70 to 72%, but I like it up in the 85, 86% range. At 90%, it gets a little too sour for me. So I've conditioned myself, and I'm a chocoholic. I used to eat Hershey's Kisses like there was no tomorrow, and I discovered that that's putting all this junk in your body, and your body reacts, and you gain weight, and you can't figure out why, and you get tired. And I discovered I don't want to live like that anymore. I don't have to. And so I convinced myself the only kind of chocolate that I'm going to allow my body to eat is this 85 to 86%, generally speaking. I do bend that a little bit. Sometimes I'll have hot chocolate, and that obviously is very sugary, so I try to really limit how much of that I have. And instead of drinking that, I just try to drink green tea. Green tea is much better for you. And at this point, with just with the dramatic changes I've seen in my life, with the improvement in my health and the health of my family and those that I've been able to affect with just giving them helpful advice, showing healthy habits that we can make, simple changes that we can make on a daily basis to turn everything around. And those should include, the following categories: lifestyle, exercise, attitude, and nutrition. We have to deal with stress management, making sure if we get too stressed out that we're finding ways to relieve that and not further aggravating the problem. Making sure that we're sleeping enough, making sure that we do have a good attitude, and if we don't, that we find ways to adjust that in a healthy way and to bring that back under control. Because as the creator of the Positivity Patrol, I will tell you that positivity has a huge impact in our life. And if we have a positive mental attitude centered with all these other habits, all these other healthy habits, it'll generate a ripple effect that will help not only our own families, but all those whose lives we touch and reach in any way. And those people reach out and affect others too. So if we're affecting positive changes inside and manifesting those for others through our good example, others will follow suit and improve their lives. And why shouldn't we reach for the best health we possibly can and take control of our health holistically? It's my firm opinion that we can heal ourselves, that we can help ourselves through our health, but also to heal ourselves from the inside. I believe that we heal from the inside out, and that once we have a solid foundation of nutrition and health, and blending that with sleep and other important things of that nature, that we are able to really make sure that our health improves. And, a lot of us don't even monitor our water consumption. And I started monitoring that by 32-ounce quantities, making sure that I'm draining that bottle a couple times with water, and not with carbonated pop, or making sure that I'm drinking 6 quarts of coffee instead. I mean, that just doesn't. There are limits to how much caffeine our body can handle, and so we need to make sure that when we're tempted to reach for that caffeinated beverage, that instead of doing that occasionally we reach for water, we reach for green tea, we reach for healthy choices for our bodies. For almond milk, which has more calcium than some other types of milk. I also had to give up dairy pretty much because I discovered I was lactose intolerant. I have several food allergies. Among them are soy, legumes, a couple others. Those are the major ones, but I really making sure that I'm avoiding processed soy, the hydrogenated version, and avoiding lactose, other than, I mentioned earlier that I do eat Greek yogurt and put that in my smoothies, and that I almost need to, in some cases, to make sure I don't have a protein deficiency, at least on Meatless Monday and on what I call Fish Fridays, which I frequently eat fish on those days. Not just on Fridays, but I do try to make sure that I get fish into my diet a couple times a week. And we all need to do that. We need to do that for our health. And if we don't, we get to our, the prime of our lives, and we discover that we have things that we could have made better decisions at certain points, and possibly not been in that situation. And hindsight's 20/20 on that. But I think almost all of us get some kind of wake-up call with our health. And at that point, we have to decide: am I going to take control of my health at this point, or am I just going to continue to do whatever I want? And I think that how we answer that question has a powerful impact on where we're going with our health. If we take control of it when we have the chance, and when we're able to, we can turn everything around, and we don't have to do it all at once. What I'm trying to say is we can do it incrementally. We can pick the one thing that we need to do the most. For example, if you have high cholesterol, you look at consuming more oatmeal, cutting meat consumption, switching to seafood. If you find you're lactose intolerant, you look at other options. You look at almond milk, coconut milk, cashew milk. Is very delicious. I don't know if any of you have tried that, but cashew milk is one of my new favorites. And I wouldn't have discovered these things if it hadn't been for my wife suspecting that I was lactose intolerant and telling me that and asking me to test it. And when I started testing it, I realized she's right. And that if I go off the wagon with lactose, I get the inflammation and the weight gain and the stomach irritation that goes with it. And there's no reason to do that if I can avoid it. So that's what I'm trying to do, is really trying to help others make good decisions. Do want to welcome Frank and Dominic for joining. Thanks for joining me. We're just talking about good health, healthy habits. Gesundheit is roughly translated as good health in German. It may not be a precise translation, but that's as close as I can get with the couple of years of college German that I took. But we're just talking about simple changes we can make in our health to try to improve things and turn things around. Boosting fish consumption, healthy spices like turmeric, Having turmeric with black pepper to boost its absorption, drinking green tea, boosting magnesium, making sure that we're getting enough servings of fruit and vegetables every day. And some of them should be organic. There is a list of what they call the dirty dozen. Certain fruits and vegetables we really should buy organically because a lot of pesticides are used for others. And if we're not cognizant of that, we can ingest all these pesticides with our food, and that has all kinds of detrimental effects. So look up that list of the dirty dozen, and I think kale is on the list. Apples are on the list. I've gone through this list previously, but I don't have it in front of me right now. So, but those are a couple of things I would recommend as far as improving your health. Realize that we can make holistic changes, make them incrementally, and maybe try focusing on one healthy change a month. For example, if you're not drinking enough water, focus on drinking enough water for a month. Measure it daily. If you get that mastered, then you can move on to boosting how many servings of fruits and vegetables you're getting. The next month you could do how much sleep are you getting. I know for myself, I don't function very well. If I get around 5 hours of sleep or less, I'm just not as productive, creative, etc. as I can be if I'm getting 7 or 8 or more. And I know it's tough for those of us who are adults and we have children, and it's a busy time of year, getting close to Christmas. A lot of us are very busy, and so it's tough to get that sleep, but we have to make it a priority. We absolutely have to. Our bodies pay the price if we don't. So I want to thank you for joining me today. I'm going to wrap it up for now. Again, I'll remind you, if you want to visit my running blog, is at runninggrooveshark.com. I am revising that website right now. I'm going to be doing a new build with Divi, D-I-V-I. And so that will be coming soon. I have a Positivity Patrol website. I'm available as a life coach. Let's see. And like I said, I'm completing my health coach certification right now with the Dr. Sears Wellness Institute, and I hope to be a certified coach by the end of this year. So I will keep you posted on that. And let's see, I see Frank, you say, maybe we could do a show together sometime. Sure. Yeah, let me know. I'd be happy to talk to you about that. I love hosting, co-hosting shows with people, as my schedule permits. I have projects I have to get through and things I have to do too, but I'd be happy to talk to you about that sometime. Sure. So for anyone else joining us, thanks for coming. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions or you want to talk about health, running, positivity, attitude, nutrition, things of that nature. I'd be happy to talk to you about it and help you make those changes. And I will say, and I must say this at least once, Gesundheit. Make that one simple change, make it today, make incremental changes, and realize that if you holistically take control of your health, you can improve it much more than you think. You can achieve your dreams, goals, and take your life to a whole different level. All right? Thank you very much for joining me. This is Jeremy Murphy signing off from Lincoln, Nebraska. Bye-bye, everybody.